200% already of new mod. I'm not playing efficiently. Here comes the dragon now against one enemy. Usually when a dragon doesn't do that well, but with the buffs and everything, 2.2 million. It went from like 200k to 2 million in that last explosion. Jesus. That is Cyrene with Castorice. Hello internet! Look at this beauty. Today we got Cyrene in the creator experience server, and yep, everybody's here from there. We'll be using her in two of the more common teams of Crystal's Heirs, and we'll figure out if she's worth to go for or not. Before we start though, here are all the text. I will say right now, what you're about to witness that I'm about to scroll is just not a lot of text, right? It's a decent amount, but not that crazy. However, as you can tell from the very flamboyant animation she's got, when you look at her memo sprite, which is just a close-up selfie of herself, this is where the wall of text is. She has 14 different effects. All of it are text, right? You gotta read through all of it to know what each of these does, and I will tell you, yeah, it's just a lot, dude. I will show you one by one what they are, but essentially most of them are like, you know, either numerical increase, like, oh, defense drop increase, or damage cell increase, or damage instance increase. But then for some, like Aglaia, it has like speed boost increase, energy regen as well, which is really big. And here's Tribbies, here's Hyacinth. I'll show you every single one of them. Like, you can pause if you want to like check out. We got the crit damage one for Cyrene. We got Hyacinth as well, which does more damage. We got Evernight one, which does more damage as well. Here's Danheng, and here's Trailblazer. We will cover every single one of these teams on the channel. Just follow through. I'll be posting more very quickly. But for today, though, the main two that we'll showcase will be two of the best options for Cyrene, I think. But before that, even more text. Here's the Lightcone. I will say her Lightcone's gonna help you out a lot. You really want to like grab this just for the speed buff, in my opinion. But here are the traces, and here's the Relics. We have got Enforced Eternal Land, which does give you more speed. You really need higher speed, the higher the better. And just the substats and main stats, these are what you're looking for. And yeah, there you go. She is a HP scaler after all as well, so you do want HP percent stuff. And here are the Eidolons. Here's the first one. I will say the second one is what really makes her pop. And here are the rest. They're all pretty strong, but E2 is really the big one that you want to get. With all of that set up, you'll notice a stat line like this. I like to bring your focus to 201 speed. This is a really specific amount that I think is best that you hit. You will understand why later when I show you, but yeah, I've gotten this speed sheet. You'll notice right here, 200 speed means you can get 3 turns in the first cycle. You really need that to get her ultimate to be ready in the first cycle. Yeah, so you can actually find something useful on Reddit, not just butt pixel comparisons. A couple of more interesting stuff is Cyrene does provide 50% crit rate for herself, so you don't really need too high of crit rate. I have like about 30 something, but at the 50, it's enough. And the other stat criteria for Kid would be with this bonus ability. If she's at least 180, you do get more damage. You definitely want to get it 180 bare minimum, but you do get more ice wristband as you get faster, up to a maximum of 240 speed in total, right? But 240 is ridiculously fast. It's really hard to achieve, but there is a reason why I want to focus on 200 speed, and I'll show you this team first, right? I think this is one of the best teams in the game, and one of Cyrene's best options as well. It's essentially just the same team, but instead of Tribby, you have Cyrene, which does pose the question, if your Tribby is already E1 and it works, why would you go for Cyrene, right? Well, I'll show it to you. This is a E0S1 Cyrene. It works though. It worked really well. Like, I'll just show you how the game goes. Now, the game's gonna start. You'll notice this. She has 7 ult charges. Based on this bonus ability, you do get 6 recollection points, which is basically ult charge if you have 3 Crystal's Heirs or Remembrance Path characters, which is exactly why you want to run Crystal's Heir and Memo Sprite. The more the better, right? Now, with the Memo Sprite from Castorice, you do see this future state, which is from Cyrene. Cyrene will provide the future state to all summoned Memo Sprites and characters as well if she takes her turn. The future stacks will convert into the ult charge if the person that holds the future stack take action, right? So now we just went from 7 to 8, and here was Cyrene taking the first turn. One thing interesting is the future stack will disappear if it's on a character and they take action, turns it into an ult charge, right? But if it's on a Memo Sprite, they will always be there. It's not gonna disappear. But anyways, remember Cyrene's turn, the way you want to do this is you usually want to just use her own skill, get the skill up. You have 11 at total stacks, and from 8 to 11 you gain 3, and you put the zone up too, though the zone's already up in the technique. But yeah, you always want to use her skill because you really need her ult to be ready, right? But here comes Hyacinth. She took an action there, which means 1 extra future stack turned into ult charges, and now we'll ult right away. Lil Iga's gonna come on and take a turn. Lil Iga has future, so with attacks it gains 1 charge for Cyrene. That's how it works essentially. So if every night we do got Eevee right there, Eevee's going to have the future stack. Yep, right there. When taking action, Cyrene gets recollection. So from 13, if I hit attack here, it's gonna go to 14. So now you understand how you gain ultimate, right? I'm pretty sure it's very obvious. Now I will say the attention needs to be put here. Hyacinth lost the future buff, right? On the character, the future is gonna get consumed and then turn into recollection, which is the ult charge for Cyrene. But on Memo Sprites, Future will not disappear. It'll always be there. You can turn it into alt charge. It's going to be there. That's why Memo Sprites are really good with Cyrene. But without the Future stack, though, the character will not be able to gain charge. I did have Future stack on Evernight right there, so the alt did gain me 1. And here comes Evie as well with the 15 to 16. And now we got Castorice. Do note as well the zone from her skill. It does the true damage equal to 24% of the original damage. It's really good damage output for your whole team, honestly. So you see the first issue with Cyrene here. Castorice already has her ultimate. Cyrene still does not have it yet, right? It is a slight issue for Castorice because you can just gain it back very easily later. And that is the main issue a lot of people are saying about Cyrene. She's quite slow in terms of getting the first ultimate. There's not really any good ways to get more. But in any case, here's Castorice. She's already good enough. That's why this team's really strong anyway. Like, this is overkill, right? Well, you get the damage in 1.5 mil. Everyone's damn near dead. Here with the enhanced Evie with Future as well. It's going to get me 1 charge for Cyrene there, 18 to 19. And now we got her own turn. She already used the Future stack, right? Yep, so no Future stack. That means we cannot get extra stacks. We're going to go in and summon Evie, though. Evie, again, has Future stack because on Memo Sprites, it's always going to be there. So we get the 20 of stacks there. Now, the Future stacks on characters can be regained if Cyrene ends her turn. So Cyrene needs to take her turn here. I'm going to use an E right there. Bang. And Hyacinth, without the Future stack, now finally regains the Future stack right there. So you can see how Cyrene is designed to be. You take turns and you turn the Future stacks into her ult charge and you eventually use the ultimate, right? And finally, we're near to enough yapping, okay? We'll go and use our skill right here with Hyacinth. That's 1 Future converted into the ult charge of Cyrene. And now we can finally use the ultimate. This is the first time that I've showed her ultimate in the channel. But yeah, look at that animation. This is just peak, dude. This is like the first animation with this sort of like touch to it. You can like click the space to continue the animation. It's not that big of a deal, but it's cool, man. Now, the first time Cyrene uses his ultimate, all of your characters gain their ultimate. So I probably should have used Castorice's ult first, but I guess it doesn't even matter. For this wave, it's already almost done anyway. There's also another reason why I held everything. So here's the deal, right? Cyrene just used 12 stacks of her ult charges after hitting 24 to use her first ult. Now she can actually use it again. I can queue it right here. Look at that. She can use an extra ultimate right after this. With this ultimate, you want to use your E to buff Chrysos heirs. If you do, they get their unique effects. I'm going to go ahead and do that on Castorice real quickly. And now we'll do it again. Another ultimate. I've just buffed Castorice. There's no point in me going for her again, which is where I want to give it to Evernight now. If a Chrysos heir has a buff, they will have this heart symbol on their head. So I have not gotten that on Evernight yet, so let's go ahead and do that. Now it's time to finish off the attack with this effect. We actually cleared the way with that damage up right there. But as you've seen, Cyrene's damage, not too shabby. That's 400k on that War of Armor, whatever mob. It is increased essentially, but it's really good damage to Cyrene. And now let's check out the effects of Castorice, right? Castorice got the Ode to Life and Death, which now means Numa can overflow up to 200%, and we do even more damage as Netherwing explodes. That means I'm gonna go ahead and get the healing in. I can charge over 100% on Castorice. I'm 126 now. So what we will do against this specific boss is we'll charge to 200% and then just nuclear bomb them. We can maybe clear the whole thing in one go, but yeah, let's just get the healing in. And at the same time, right here is the same thing, right? We're gonna get more and more charges for Cyrene as my team takes more turns, and eventually we're gonna do it again. But yep, one more thing. Since we also buffed Evernight, a different Chrysos heir, we got Ode to Time. It pretty much just gets me more damage and more Memoria, so overall just more damage output for Evernight. But if you combine all these effects to all 3 of these characters, even Hyacinth has it. With Hyacinth, you have Ode to Sky. You don't have to target her for this effect at all. It is like a passive. It exists as long as you have Cyrene on the field with Hyacinth. But if you do target Hyacinth, she gets energy, then that's basically it. But it depends on the scenario who you want to give the buff to. Yep, here we have Cyrene. Now that she's in the buff state, she'll never leave this state, by the way. You only need 12 more charges in order to get your next ultimate. So she does have a slow uptime for the first ultimate, but after that, she's gonna do really fine. Here comes Evernight, 1,000,000 damage right there. And enhanced Evie attack right here, turning 1 stack into the ult charge for Cyrene. We pretty much wiped the whole team already. We're gonna summon Evie back, 21 stacks again. Evie's gonna come up from 9 to 10 stacks on Cyrene. And that's 50% of your HP gone. And now we got you 200% already of new bud. I'm not playing efficiently because I'm mainly trying to showcase like how the team works and such. It is a little bit of a waste, but I think I'll just go for it. We'll go for the ult right here. This is 200%. I'm gonna go ahead and use my E right there, 148, and here's the damage output with Cyrene. How much are we talking about? Let's check it out. We have her ult as well because we turned our future stack into the ult charge, right? 2.1 million on one boss. Ladies and gentlemen, Cyrene with Castorice. Now, specifically for Castorice, you already have ult to life and death, and it's always gonna be there since it's a one-time effect, so you don't have to give it to her again at all. It's the same for the rest of the team. You don't really have to give to any of them. If there's no point to, you could just go for a Q. So let's just showcase the Q. Yo, you can see right here. First of all, the targeting has this all these heart shapes. Dude, she's just really cutesy. And you can see the boss silhouette right there. Let's check out the damage, I guess. It is an AoE, so it should do pretty good damage if they have like multiple mobs. It still did like 200k to one boss though, which is awesome. We're gonna go for the E. We have enough for the ult anyway, so let's go and get the ult. And Lil Ika's gonna go in as well, dealing 500k damage. I don't know where the damage is coming from, but yeah, Hyacinth is pretty busted, man. It's from the zone, if anything. It's from the zone's like true damage infliction too. Here's Cyrene's own turn. We can do a bunch of damage, and let's check out her stats as well. We are 209 after being buffed by her sets and everything, so you can tell like she doesn't get a lot of speed from her own kit. And this is where I'll mention why you needed 200 speed, right? The only reason is you can get 3 turns in the first cycle is to help you get that first ultimate. That first ultimate is the activation for a lot of things. You really want that to happen, which is why I opted for 200 speed. Any lower, she goes into the second cycle, and she might need that one extra turn to get the ult, right? But anyways, here's freaking okay, 600k is pretty crazy. Here we got Evernight, which is gonna finish it off. It's fully buffed up. We have 108% on Castorice because we're buffed. We can go over 100. You know what we're going to do? We're going to go for 200, man. Why rob a grandma once we can do it twice? We'll get the heal again. Thank God with Hyacinth we can get so much stacks for Castorice, man. It's just going on really quickly. We do have ults even on Cyrene. She really does get activated so quickly after the first turn specifically. Like after the first ult rather. But here comes the damage output though. 250k. We have 200% on Castorice already. We're gonna go for the ult for fun. And yeah, there's not any reason for to buff anyone right now. You can see what Cyrene's buff to Castorice looks like. It's effective for the entire battle. That is why you don't have to re-put it up again, right? It doesn't just disappear. I didn't mention this, but it also has this unique effect where if there's like not too many enemies, if it's lower than 2 enemies, the dragon's damage will be a lot more focused. But regardless of it though, I think we'll finish you off. 47k right there without a time. Not too much, but yep. Here comes the dragon though. Against one enemy is usually when the dragon doesn't do that well, but with the buffs and everything, 2.2 million. It went from like 200k to 2 million in that last explosion. Jesus. And that was a 0 cycle clear. That is Cyrene with Castorice. I will give you like very direct answer and comparison about that. If you have Tribi E1 on Dance, which is the same amount of cost as getting a Cyrene ready, you clear this in about the same time anyway. So if you already have the Tribi at E1 ready, there's not really a point to like force a Cyrene, but if you don't have an E1 Tribi, Cyrene is actually going to do better. But regardless of it though, as I mentioned in the should you pull video, it is a question of if you want to go for Cyrene or not. If you already have a team that kind of works, right? There's no point in forcing yourself to go for it when you're not, you know, having the most of resources. But as you can already tell though, if she's strong or not, she's really good. Specifically with the effect of how Castorice's damage while being spread out. If the enemy amount is low, you can have it focus on one enemy. That's a big difference in clearing some like single target bosses, right? That is pretty handy in my opinion. In any case, that was the first best team. I'm about to show you the second best team. We got a good old Phainon. This is where speed tuning really matters a lot. Right now with this team, first of all, the enemy is not really the perfect one for Phainon. Like there's a lot of CCs going on, but I feel like, you know, it's a fair showcase. You can't just assume everything's gonna go perfect for you, right? But here comes the team. You're gonna notice both Cyrene and Danhan did take their action with their technique. That actually counts as taking an action. That's why Cyrene started with 6 stacks of ults because you have 3 Chrysos Air. You go to 8 because both of my characters with future stacks, they took an action. It's very confusing, I know, but it soon will make a lot of sense. But let's just move on. We'll start with Q. We're gonna hold our ultimate because now we still don't have our future stack. But if Cyrene takes a turn and then I use my ultimate on Dan Heng, you can see right here, I do get my future stack. Now that I have a future stack, I want to take an action. It can be an attack, an ult, or a turn. So we're gonna just do it. Bang. That's from 11 stacks to 12 stacks, right? That's how you want to like time your ults and such well enough to maximize your future stack as perfectly as you can. And the main reason is because with this team, there's not a lot of memo sprites that help gain Cyrene the ult charge. With the Castorice team, you had like 3 memo sprites. That was not an issue. You're gonna get your ult for sure. But with this team, it's really important for Cyrene to be at 200 speed as well for that reason. There's not enough memo sprites to help her gain charge. You want your third turn in the first cycle, and there's still more intricacies. Here with Cyrene, you have a future stat, whatever, but you want to make sure you use Cyrene's skill on Phainon to get the speed buff on him, right? Specifically with my Phainon, it's 135 with the Vici speed buff right here, increased speed by 20. You want your Phainon to be 134 at least to take 2 turns in the first cycle so you can convert more future stacks for Cyrene. It's gonna make sense after this. But in any case, here comes the first debuff coming in. It's gonna hit Cyrene. Oh, dude, it hit me, man. There's nothing I can do about that. The first control is still okay. Like, Cyrene is still there. We can still make this work. But the second control from this boss is gonna be very much annoying. Here we got Phainon. We're gonna use a skill for, you know, a bit more damage. 250k there. And now we have Cyrene. We want to make sure we get our E always on Cyrene. So from 14 to 17, I have now refreshed all future stacks, including on Cyrene, including with Danheng as well. We're gonna simply touch someone with a Q, I think. Actually, no, we'll do a skill. We'll do a skill to get more shields. Get a Soul Dragon up as well. Now, what's weird about this Soul Dragon too is that if you've been paying attention, right, the Soul Dragon does not have future stacks. I'm not sure why that's the case. It doesn't help Cyrene at all, and that's very annoying. That's why right now you can see we're at the end and we have 18 out charge on Cyrene, but we can still make this work. Cyrene still has the future. What we do here is we just do a simple Q, get the Q in, bam, that's from 18 to 19. Here's Phainon. Phainon, because I'm taking the second turn of the cycle, I have another future star right here. I know it's a lot of yapping, but it's just a really complicated character, so I want to make sure everything's like Phainon daddy. We'll simply use a Q here to get our 20th stack, right? So that's 20, and you'll notice this. I can use a skill target myself and get 3 out charge. I'm missing 1. But what did I do at the start of the game? This is what I did, right? I did a skill right into someone's ultimate because that actually gains me my future stack, and that is why I saved my ult on Cyrene till now. The final moment after the final Cyrene turn that I can turn the final future stack into the 24th out charge, and now we get the out charge just in time for the Pyrrhic buff for Phainon. A lot of math has been put into this team, dude. And now with Cyrene, we're gonna go and use our ultimate, and we're gonna queue another right away. We activate everyone's ult. That's why you don't have to focus on Phainon at all. He's going to get his ult if Cyrene gets the ult, right? So what I do here is firstly we go ahead and buff the Phainon. We'll show you what the effects of the buffs are later, and we're gonna use one more ult and target Cyrene this time. She's also a Chrysos here, and what Cyrene can do is essentially just give you more damage, give you more crit damage mainly on whoever that holds the Pyrrhic. But now that everything's done, we're just gonna queue in every single other ultimate because that's the last time you're gonna be able to use them, because based on the buff, the Ode to World Bearing, Phainon will no longer leave his ultimate state, okay? He'll always be in there. He'll also do extra damage as well while consuming his own HP. But the main thing is he will never exit his ult state again, which is where, you know, you want to make sure all the buffs and every ult you can use, just use them all. You're not going to get a chance to do it again. And here we finally have it, the final turn of the first cycle. If you want a 0 cycle, this is probably the only way to do it, at least for the first side with, you know, Danheng with a sustain. We have Pyrrhic buffed up because we timed Cyrene, so here comes the damage output buffed by Cyrene. It is 1.5 million into another 1.5, enough to kill both of them for the 0 cycle so far. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is Phainon with Cyrene. The amount of planning there was with this is just ridiculous. As you can tell, all of the buffs on your entire team is now focused up on Phainon. Phainon will no longer leave the ult state. I'll show you what happens when it does happen. Like, notice this, right? This is when Phainon usually explodes and disappears, but because of the buff by Cyrene, he just explodes, but he stays in this form. He will not disappear. That's pretty much the entire deal. And in the meantime, every time we attack, we'll consume some HP, but we'll do more damage, right? So bam, that is 500k on a single enemy, which is very solid. As he summons more stuff, though, it'll get even better, yeah? I'll go and use my second skill. They have 3 enemies after all, so let them attack me here. Get more skirt stacks. We do have the Pyrrhic buff ready already. There's now 5 enemies. That's awesome. So now here's the counter. Bam, 700k on the counter. That's pretty awesome. The dragon, if anything, is doing good damage as well. 490, thanks to the zone of Cyrene, right? And now there's 3 enemies. I'm not sure if I want to go for the second skill or not. I think I'll go for more damage. Let's just go for a Q. We'll go for a Q right there. That should be 5 stacks of Scourge, and that'll allow me to get the Pyrrhic buffed up. Gosh darn skill, and this should one-shot it. Yep, look at that. Stupid amount of damage. 2.2 million into 1 extra proc. That's instantly half health. Yep, almost half health. And unfortunately, we still cannot just 0 cycle this. This boss is not squishy enough for me to just, you know, even with a whole cycle fresh for Phainon, it's really hard to 0 cycle with him, right? He's like fixed after all. But anyways, here's the second skill. We'll get 4 Scourge stacks that way. Prepare for a next nuclear bomb, right? Let's just go ahead and like have you target me. I have way too much HP and shield for you to really threaten me with this. Yep, we're absolutely chilling here. And this is what I really wanted to show. As you explode here, check this out. The explosion will still happen. It's good damage, honestly. It's still good damage, but we just come back. We just come back. We no longer disappear, dude. Isn't that awesome? So now we get to nuke along with the zone of Cyrene. Damn, bro. And now it's just a game of normal Phainon gameplay. We're gonna go for a Q. The boss will die soon. I'm pretty sure we should have this in this cycle, not an issue. Let's just make sure we win this without any mishaps. We're gonna go for the W, and that'll get me my Pyrrhich buffed up. So my next hit will be a double hit, and I think that should be game. This is one of the best teams for Cyrene for sure. But I will say there's also like kind of an issue here. You don't really see a lot of Cyrene. It's just, oh, Cyrene click alt, and it's just Phainon all the way. You don't even get to see the rest of your team ever again. And that is a one cycle clear. In terms of comparison, again, I'll give it to you straight. Had you use a normal team like just using Sunday, the difference is that you have way less headache, because with Cyrene you really had to count everything well to get her ult within the first cycle. Like, that is a headache, but once you get used to it, it's not too bad. With Sunday though, you don't gotta care. You just gotta push to find it, but you have way less headache, right? That is one thing. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the peak of Cyrene. Now, don't get me wrong, she's still really good with the rest of these as well. I think in terms of just increase in prowess, Mighty is up there as one of the more like worth it ones. Same with Naxa as well. These two are really good, but you know, if you want to compare it to a Castorice Evernight team, that is still one of the best teams, if not the best. If you want to compare it to the Phainon, that is still one of the best teams, if not the best in the whole game. Not exactly what the Naxa Mighty could just like outperform, I don't think. And to answer the most important question, is Cyrene worth getting if you already have a team ready, right? Now, I will say for certain conditions, you're going to perform better with Cyrene. For instance, if your Tribi is E0 and maybe you don't even have her own Lightcone, Cyrene actually becomes a better option for any teams you would have Tribi in, especially with that Chrysos Heirs. Factor number 2 to consider is Cyrene will only buff Chrysos Heir, at least so far. Will the game ever release more Chrysos Heir in the future? It's hard to say, but the likelier chances are no. Like, it's hard for them to fit in Chrysos Heir after this, I'm pretty sure. If you want to pull after what I showed you, dude, it's a valid character to pull for. Like, don't let anything mislead you, right? But if we're just shutting down all emotions, let's just say like pure value wise, if you can beat everything already with your already existing Tribi, even without Eidolons, right? If you can already beat everything with like a Phainon Sunday team and you don't need Sunday anywhere else anyway, why would you want to go for Cyrene, right? Of course you can if you just love the character, like no fault in that. But in terms of just pure value though, there is always going to be an option to just wait for version 4 for the newer archetypes that might just be stronger. But overall, I do think if you're gonna pull her, use her in a good team, play her correctly, she's gonna be very worth it and very fun to play with. But if you're less emotion, more logic though, you could definitely just wait for version 4, especially if you already have solid teams ready. You got Castorice, Hyacinth, Evernight plus a Tribi. Just keep that going. You don't really need to force a Cyrene if you don't want to. And I will say for meta chasers, what you want to really go for is get the E2, because E2 really solves the problem with the slow activation of her ultimate. Like, she just gets 12 ult charges for free just coming into it, and you do even more true damage. Like, it's just such an OP Eidolon. The moment you do get that, I will rank that over Tribi E1 for sure. That is way more worth it. But well, you need 2 Eidolons. And what I showed you so far is without Eidolon, but you do have her own Lightcone. The speed is what is important, that to pull off what I just did with especially the Phainon team. Without the 18% speed, I could not have gotten 201. Like, the speed on my relics are already pretty good. It's 8, 9, 11 with freaking 9 plus 9 as well. A lot of speed rolls is needed to even hit 200. Not an easy task, man. You really want to get the Lightcone too. So, or you know, you could just like be more casual, right? You don't have to force her to do everything on the first cycle. You lose the cycle, yeah, so what? You can still like beat everything in enough cycles. You don't have to go too hard if you're just trying to get the max throws and get out, you know what I'm saying? But after you get the first ult though, she feels so good. Like, she's so aggressive after that. I hope she steps on my corpse aggressively somehow in the lore. But that'll be all for today. We'll be showcasing every single team on the channel, so do follow and everything. We're posting all of them soon. Share me with your thoughts. I'm gonna be going for Cyrene after what I've showed you. I'm interested to see for sure. And that'll be all. Take care.